I'm muted. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Before we get started this evening, I'd like to begin with a brief access check so that we can talk about the accommodations that we've set up for today's discussion. For those joining us via Zoom, we have both American Sign Language interpreters as well as closed captioning. Our interpreters for today are Ajamu Brown and Brandon Kazan-Maddox. Thank you. We also have closed captioning. So if you'd like to access the closed captioning, please refer to the toolbar below and click where it says CC, live transcript. There will be a Q&A section for this discussion. It is located at the bottom of the Zoom window. You'll see the Q&A icon. So if you have a question at any time or during the Q&A section, please direct it to there. If you're calling this afternoon, evening, you can send me an email with a question. My email is dholiday@hbstudio.org. That's spelled D as in dog, HOLLIDAY @hbstudio.org. Since we may not be able to answer or address all individual questions or ideas posed, we encourage you to reach out to me after the event, and I will do my best to direct you to the appropriate party. We also intend to upload this video to our YouTube channel, where it will also have closed captions. If at any time we are not speaking loud enough or we are going too quickly, please let us know through the Q&A function so that we can correct ourselves and move forward. So that concludes our access check for tonight. I'm going to pass it over to my co-moderator, Magaly. Go ahead and take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Desmond. Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Magaly Colimon-Christopher. I'm a member of the faculty at HB Studio. I'm also an actress, writer, director. You know how we do multiple hyphenates as artists. And I'm really happy to be here with these amazing people. I want to welcome you to tonight's conversation. HB Studio and ReelAbilities Film Festival have come together. We've come together to discuss the vision and mission of ReelAbilities Film Festival, and we have the pleasure of having two actors from the film CODA with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the amazing people we have in this panel. And be sure to tell me, I talk fast, I'm a New Yorker. Tell me if I'm talking fast. I have no problem with that. First, I'd love to introduce you to Yaara Kedem. Yaara is the ReelAbilities Film Festival New York Associate Director and International Director. Welcome, Yaara.
Thank you,
Tell us about
Magaly.
this amazing festival. I mean, I'm loving it because I went to your website and I'm just hungry for your next festival for 2021. I could tell you right now, but tell us a bit more.
Thank you so much, Magaly. Thank you, all of you, for hosting us, and early HB Studios. Has been such a pleasure collaborating, and this is such a wonderful opportunity to have an event together. ReelAbilities is actually currently working on the 13th festival, 13th annual event that we've been having every year. This year is going to be virtual. This time it's going to be planned as virtual. Last year we actually had to do a quick turnaround about 3 weeks before the festival. All of a sudden everything went into lockdown. But this year we're actually prepared for this, and really happy to be able to do that. So hopefully you can join for that as well. ReelAbilities really focuses on films by and about people with disabilities. We have international films from really anywhere you could think of that have been submitted to the festival each year. Today we had a selection committee meeting, almost finalizing our films for the upcoming festival, and we're always amazed by new voices and stories, and people really just sharing in their own ways and new artistic and creative ways, and it's so wonderful to see that. We have films from all types also as well. We have documentaries, shorts, narratives, TV shows. We're trying to include VR experiences, but that hasn't really been possible yet. And one of the things that's most important for us is to have conversations after each and every film and event. And this is why this evening here today is so wonderful. Beyond just sitting there and watching films, which is probably what all of us have been doing for the past few months, the added value is really to be able to discuss them, share your thoughts, feelings, opinions. I feel like every time after our films show, there's so much that comes out that we didn't even expect, and people sharing their own stories, and that is incredibly valuable. And what I think keeps people coming each year to the festival. So we're hoping to be able to continue doing that in the virtual space, and I think even being more accessible as far as what we're trying to do by being able to share this with more people from really all over the world.
I'm definitely going to be asking you about the virtual space, how you transitioned in 2020 and what you're doing for 2021. But first, I'd like to introduce Ryan Lane. Hi, Ryan. So let me give you a little blurb about Ryan, because, you know, there's a bio here, but bios are good. Did you just say something, Ryan?
Ryan says, hello. And actually, Magaly, I'm going to say as the interpreter, if you can slow it down just a little bit when it comes to turn taking, because that's important.
Yes, I told Desmond I was going to be yanked by the chain. It's like, Magaly, talk slower. I'm okay with that. Thank you. So I'm going to share a little bit about you, Ryan, so that the audience can get to know you. Ryan Lane is best known for his series regular role in the popular ABC family show Switched at Birth, where he starred with Lucas Gabriel, Katie Leclerc, Vanessa Morano, Constance Marie, Leah Thompson, and Marley Matlin. He got a start from a director-producer scouting him to reenact Dummy Hoy, a deaf baseball player from the 1800s in the documentary I Hear the Crowd Roar. The story of William Dummy Hoy. That role led him to guest starring roles in House.
That's right.
Cold Case, and Miami Medical. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you for letting me be a part of this talk. I really appreciate it. And it's an honor to be here.
Thank you. And next, I'd like to introduce CJ Jones, dad in CODA. CJ is a deaf American actor residing in Los Angeles.
Hello.
Oh, it's warm in Los Angeles. Hi, CJ. He is one of the subjects of See What I'm Saying, the Deaf Entertainers documentary. CJ made his film feature debut in Edgar Wright's Baby Driver. That was a crazy movie in which he portrays Joseph, the deaf foster father of Ansel Elgart's protagonist. Welcome, CJ.
Hello. Hi. It's really nice to have all of these participants together, and we look forward to so much more discussion.
Absolutely. So one of the wonderful things that a lot of us are not aware about is the importance of accessible self-introduction, right? So Desmond is going to share with you what we're going to reintroduce ourselves for those who need that accessible self-introduction. So I'm going to start off. Hi, my name is Magaly Colimon-Christopher. My pronouns are she, her. My physical space, I'm in a living room and there's bright lights coming in because I have this screen saver that makes it look really pretty, so you don't see my real room. And there's a porch outside the window. I'm wearing a dark blue shirt and I'm wearing glasses and my hair is kind of pinned back. And that's my self-introduction that's accessible. So if we can go back around and self-introduce again with these parameters, let's try it. Desmond, your turn.
Thank you, Magaly. Yeah, so this is to help our friends out there who have a visual impairment to, better visualize where in our spaces we are. My name is Desmond Holliday. I have long-ish, brownish hair. I'm in a bright red room. I am wearing a sweater with a mustard turtleneck. I am in my 20s and I am white. And I'm also very excited to be here because I'm smiling a lot. And I just hope that you can feel my smile through the screen. And Yaara, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. So my name is Yaara Kedem. My pronouns are she, her. I have longish, brownish, curly hair. I think I'm a bit paler now than I am in the summer when I spend more time outside. I'm wearing a dark blue sweater and I'm sitting in my apartment that has a lot of tiny small frames in the background that are actually frames of movie theaters because that's kind of a hobby.
And you can pass the baton on to the next person, Yaara.
Ryan, please share with us.
Oh, I will introduce myself then, right? Okay, wonderful, how I look and stuff, right? Okay, so I was born deaf and I got deafness from my father, my mother's hearing. I've got a beard. I just started growing white hair in my beard, so there's a little bit of that. It's a good thing that we're not focused on ageism, right? So that's a good thing. I have a white quarter-length sleeve shirt on. I've got a black knit hat. I've got a black watch on, and I have a tattoo on my left forearm on the inside. It's my first. You're my first dog. He was deaf.
Wow.
So that's what it is. It 0. Ah, I see. 0 the dog. And he was deaf. And so it's nice to have, you know, someone, it's nice to have him here with me. He's still here with me, you know. And it's also nice to see all of you guys. And also my space is half an office and half my roommate's room. So it's good service for Wi-Fi, but in anywhere else in the house, it kind of falls apart. So I have to learn how to deal with all of the technology and things like that. But I'm also pretty old school. I'm not a social media person, so that's where we stand. But I've always been very silly. I like to make everybody laugh, and that's I'm also really active. So there
Awesome.
we are.
Great. CJ.
Well, I have a very nice blank background on my wall. There are no pictures, only because I just moved in to where I live. So what you see is what you see. But what you see is me. So I have black hair, I'm a black man, I've got a great smile and a bright blue turquoise shirt on. I'm really bad with colors, so I'm guessing what this color is. It's like blue teal, right? I'm sitting on my really comfortable office chair, and here I am. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much. And you know what? Thank you. I am a caramel-skinned African-American person. You forget to say the most obvious things. So let's move on to talking about CODA. Can we start talking about CODA? I loved that film. And I would like to ask Ryan and CJ to share their most memorable artistic experience on the set of this project. Or if it wasn't artistic, just memorable personal experience working on CODA. Oh my God, was I going too fast again? Please tell me I wasn't.
So me or CJ, who do you want to start first?
CJ.
It doesn't matter?
CJ, I loved you as dad. You cracked me up.
Oh, all right. Oh, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that. It was a fun role to play the father on set, and working with the director and the cast, everyone was really friendly. And that was really nice to see, because a lot of times in the past, I didn't have a good experience working with diversity and people understanding like how to communicate with a deaf person, how to run the set, and how to make sure that the shots are all set up correctly. So I really appreciated my time working on this set a lot.
Wonderful. So what experiences did you have that you might have brought to the set to help them know how to better be of service to you, CJ? Because sometimes we are forced to educate people. when they're underinformed? Did you find yourself being forced to educate the team, or did they come informed as to what's an optimal space for you to function in as an artist?
Oh, I believe that the director, her name is Erica Davis Marsh. She already really shared with her entire team for them to be able to get to know how to communicate with deaf people, and as well as having Cassandra Davis Marsh there and being able to help everyone really pick up how we were going to run the set. Everything started to run really quickly. We always had 2 or 3 interpreters on set at all times, and that made a huge difference. The interpreter really helped the accessibility. And as soon as I had the accessibility, I felt like I could work as normal. I could socialize, I could run the set and do my job really smoothly. So that was really great. I was really thankful for that approach.
Thank you for sharing, CJ. What about you, Ryan?
For CODA, my experience was really amazing. There was great diversity on the set, and also both in racial diversity as well as disability diversity. And it was really great to see that I was seeing my culture being represented, and people were being very conscious about how to run everything smoothly on the set, and everyone picked everything up really quickly. So I want to, really applaud the people who are working on set as well as the actors. But as soon as anything were to happen on set that wasn't accessible, it would be dealt with and everything would be picked up very quickly. But specifically, the actors, Kira, the main actor, who was the lead in CODA, she picked up sign language extremely quickly. And I think that was the most important thing for everyone, because we had to be able to communicate with each other. And without the interpreter, I think we were going to have a connection between the two of us, and everything worked out really well. And I really want to thank everyone who was working on the set, who was able to make everything accessible for us.
Thank you for sharing, Ryan. So, Yaara, you've been running this festival since 2007, and you've been having these amazing talkbacks. This share that CJ and Ryan just made, was that the share that you were getting from the artists in previous instances in the beginning of the journey? Is it something that was, you feel like, a product of ReelAbilities Film Festival educating filmmakers on how to run a proper set because of your events that have been going on for all these years?
That's a great question. So I will just say I have not been personally involved since 2007. I've only been there for the past 4 years. But I can already tell you just from the conversations I've had even 4 years ago that that's not always the case. And I will say that mostly for ReelAbilities films, I mean, one of the things that's very important for us is to have films that have authentic casting and actors that can actually share their own experiences and story. And that definitely comes across in the film and the quality of it. But a lot of those actors share experiences that are not similar to that. And we're kind of blocked out of opportunities that just were not open to an accessible set. We've heard some stories, about people trying to audition for a role, but once realizing that there was going to be an extra step that needed to be taken as far as accommodating accessibility, then the production was just not able to take that. Sometimes for financial reasons, sometimes it's just not knowing what it involves and maybe being afraid to ask or consult or hire someone that is responsible for that and is willing to take those extra steps. So it's so wonderful to have a film like CODA where you really feel that the involvement and the creation of the film has so many perspectives on it, and is made in such an inclusive way. And I think you can see that in CODA, especially as far as the acting and the actors, and such a wonderful job that you do there. But even as far as being accessible to viewers, the captions that are part of the graphics on screen, and it makes it, you completely understand that this film was made, beginning to end with accessibility in mind, and wanting to reach as many people. And that's what accessibility means. It just means you want to reach as many audiences as possible, which is, I'm sure, what everyone wants. So it's so great when you see the filmmaking process as part of it. And that's what I think we hope to see with every film that, we get submitted and we want to screen at the festival.
That is beautiful, because Desmond and I were talking about the closed captions and how how did you describe it, Desmond? It was like they danced on the screen. They didn't just show up. It was part of the movement of the scenes, and you didn't feel like they were intrusive. You felt like they were part of the story. The director did an amazing job with that, and thanks for underlining that. Desmond, what was it that you said? I'm not trying to quote you, because I loved what you said about your first impression when you saw the closed captions.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that really stood out to me about CODA was the way that how closed captioning was included, because I feel that a lot of pushback on closed captioning is that it's distracting, it's not artistic, it really kind of takes away from the image. But I think in this movie in particular, and then also in REVEL in Your Body in particular, the way the placement and the fluidity of it all coming out felt really natural, felt really normal, and felt like it was really adding to the story as opposed to being something that just had to be there. And I really appreciated about that. Yeah.
It was like it was more than just functional. It was artistic. I think that's what we came up with. It was artistic. So I want to speak to the point that you made about going to the platform in 2020, going online in 2020. What were your challenges with accessibility in the virtual space?
So yeah, I'll just as a quick background, we did have to do in our last festival, which was in April or end of March 2020, to do a quick shift from planning a physical event to planning a virtual event, which we didn't know the first thing about. No one knew at that point. I didn't know what Zoom was at that point. That was a quick change, trying to realize what that means as far as accessibility. The amazing thing is we actually discovered that we could even be more accessible in the virtual space, which was a huge surprise to us. Since we're still able to have interpreters, we're able to have captioning. What we were able to have that we weren't able to have in the physical space is having everyone in the room, metaphorically speaking, and a lot of our audiences that have joined the last festival and our screenings recently even have said that they've heard about ReelAbilities in the past. They have disabilities. They wanted to be part of the films, but they were never able to physically get to the space, to the theater. And sometimes they were able to, get somewhere and there weren't the exact accommodations they needed. And the fact that anyone can log in from all corners of the US was incredible. So I think that actually gave us so many more options. And as with everything, it kind of just requires you to just be a bit more creative with how you're doing things and see what the benefits are. And I think on this level, it's really, we're trying to embrace that opportunity and think of what else we can do.
Did you have audience talkbacks? Which platform did you use?
Yeah, we've actually, so one of the things with ReelAbilities is we really cherish our partnerships and the community that we have. I will say, if any of you ever get to physically attend a ReelAbilities festival, which I hope will happen at least next year, part of what we love seeing is the same people coming over to screenings, and you get to know them, and we get to talk to people, and they get to talk to each other and feel like there's a family out there. There's people that, you know, you can relate to and share stories with. So we've been using Zoom in actually a meeting format to have all of our conversations. And the reason for that, we have it, you know, controlled and monitored, because we've known there's been some instances, there are disadvantages to the virtual space. But we want to make sure that people can see each other too. And I think that, you know, when people virtually walk into a Zoom meeting, that all of a sudden you see all these people in their houses, and you get to feel a bit less alone. I remember when we started, even for me, it was so isolating. And all of a sudden sitting there and seeing, you know, people that are interested and want to have the same conversation you do, it's really powerful.
So Ryan, you said you're not social media pro. You're old-fashioned. You're not social media pro or something like that. What was it that she said? What did he say? I don't remember. So how are you feeling with this Zoom thing if you're not big in social media?
Well, so I'm kind of stuck in the 1990s, and
I'm kind of stuck in the 1990s, and we need I need an upgrade, you know. And you can see me clearly, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Oh, better now. Okay. That was a good upgrade.
yeah, so I've been trying to brush up on my skills with technology, and especially with having to work with the telephone and all of these different technologies. I have to depend on services.
Right.
And so for me, with me being a little old-fashioned, some of these things haven't really been updated yet. And so sometimes you'll have problems with frozen video and not being able to understand each other, because the deaf depend on their visual ability. And through the phone, I'm not going to be able to do things in the same way. And you know, sometimes when I'm trying to communicate and using the technology, there's a lot more of a delay. Things take longer, or there'll be some misunderstandings. And getting to the point where, you know, we can have a smooth conversation, sometimes there's problems that arise. And I understand people are trying to improve how, you know, how they can have better accessibility. And, you know, sometimes they forget to add specific things that they didn't think of. And so I have to inform them, and then they'll make the improvement, and they'll add the accessibility. And so these steps will take time in order to get things to run smoothly. And really, it depends on if I'm willing to stand up and inform everybody about the accessibility. So you know what I mean? Zoom, just to let you know, Zoom has been really great, and it's great for the deaf community. So it's helped with the accessibility a lot. It's helped with communicating with hearing people. And so, especially in this space, we've got closed captioned. And when I have Zoom up, it used to be that there were no closed captioned. And so I'd have to make sure the interpreter would be there and make sure the connection was there. But it seems like Zoom is improving day by day, where lately I haven't been having any problems at all. So I'm really glad that like Zoom is making these accommodations.
And CJ, I know you're a writer, producer, director as well. Have you been producing and directing on the Zoom platform this year? Did I interrupt you, Ryan? I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just clarifying.
Sorry.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
I was asking CJ, I know that you're a writer and a director and a producer as well. Have you been producing for Zoom this year during this pandemic? Has it been a doorway to you producing? Because I run a theater company, and we've been producing on Zoom extensively during the shutdown. Have you found your way to producing on Zoom because of how it facilitates communication for the deaf community?
You're asking me that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, great. Whoa. So there are several things. One is I'm not great on Zoom. That's because it's like getting everyone's attention, right? It takes so much work to get people's attention. And, sometimes the streaming is a little difficult. So it's like, how do we develop a connection with the hearing audience out there in the world? Through Zoom meetings, we can discuss different script ideas and how to develop access. Where can hearing and deaf people work together, and how can we collaborate with different streaming companies? It's been very exciting, and it's definitely starting to grow. So it's really important to be able to have an interpreter, it's very important to have a quality interpreter. And for my business, I know that it's important also. I've struggled also. ASL is my first language, and I can speak and I can sign, but signing and speaking at the same time is like this, it doesn't always get everything that you need out. So having Zoom has helped grow, help different possibilities grow, and help the development of different productions. And so I've started teaching middle and high school students in regards to virtual innovative workshops. So last summer that really exploded, and last fall I was teaching 3 different schools. They were all deaf schools, and they were all learning through virtual remote innovative workshops. And we were talking about acting and writing and learning learning budgets, all aspects of production. And you weren't just sitting at home doing nothing, right? We were providing ways for development for people. And so I really enjoyed that. And at the same time, we're trying to provide accessibility of sign language. And as a deaf person to the hearing people, we need to develop that connection. And we need to feel enriched for our opportunities in our collaborations. And so it is thanks to Zoom that we've been able to grow, connected in our community with the hearing community as well. And one day, we'll have classes, and we'll be able to communicate with the entire world internationally. Soon, actually next week, I'm talking with Kuwait in order to, it's a deaf community there, and they want to know about my work and how as a deaf person I can be so accomplished. And we know that Kuwait has a lot that they're up against, and there's so many stories to be told from there, and how they can stand and fight for their own rights as a deaf community in Kuwait. So there's so much that we're doing regarding helping people establish themselves. And I really do believe that where the action is on social media itself. That's where all this action takes place.
Absolutely. Art for social change, right? I'm a big proponent of art for social change.
Exactly, that's right.
So Yaara, what's going to happen in 2021? How is the festival going to go to the next level? Are you going to be on a different platform? Are you still going to be on Zoom? What can we expect?
We can expect to be just a bit more prepared this time. That's for sure. Okay. But we're staying virtual. we actually have been running ReelAbilities events throughout the summer virtually, and we're still so lucky to have people join and still want to be involved. So the festival will be virtual. We're considering having more films than ever, just because we want to have more options and possibilities. Still have conversations. One of the things that are just a bit unfortunate were that we used to have films and events with a lot of partners throughout New York City. And that wasn't really possible last year, but this year we want to still get them involved. And it's actually incredible how we used to have about 25 different venues and organizations that we worked with, and they've actually come to us this year and want to work with us and want to host events together. And I think what this means, first of all, is there so many people that are still looking for programs and content, but I think accessibility and discussing and showing films that focus on people with disabilities is a priority for people right now, and I think that's wonderful. So we hope to have collaborations with that, and we also, our
Which
festival
platform
is.
are you using though? For those audience members who are thinking about hosting the film festival but have no clue where to go.
We're using streaming sites, streaming platforms. We've been using Event of Ticketing, which has been wonderful. I know Eventbrite, it's been out there that you're able to actually watch films and stream them online. And then we have our conversations on Zoom.
Great.
Yeah.
So is there an advocacy group that helps advocate for the artists and making sure that sets kind of meet the expectations of their artists that they bring to their set, so that there are interpreters, that there are accommodations made as occurred on CODA? That the producer was amazing, but is there an advocacy group at Screen Actors Guild or WGA? Is there something that you're aware of that's happening to make these accommodations possible so that we can have more artists online producing their work because those accommodations are being made because there's an advocacy group on their side?
So I think the best to speak of these are actually CJ and Ryan, that probably work every day with groups that are trying to be more accessible. We've been working with a few groups throughout the city as well. We work with the mayor's office here and the Department of Disability of the City of LA, even on making environments more accessible and cultural events more accessible. And we have been working also with SAG-AFTRA and WGA, just really to have people representing and speaking in the name of actors and filmmakers that want to be accessible and how to make that happen. And yeah, I think maybe Ryan and CJ know specifically of how that works better than I do, being on sets.
CJ says, well, sure, it depends on the event. Sometimes you've got like ReelAbilities, for example, they'll provide everything accessible and they are wonderful. And then you've got AFI, which is the American Film Institute, and they have moderators for their events. And so like for Sound of Metal, for example, that was just released, and they had to learn how to get access and certain rights for deaf people and finding interpreters, and it was a little different. So they contacted us, and then we contacted different agencies and got together with AFI and helped them learn how to become more equitable in the process of providing everything that needs to be done for the deaf people and the hearing people and everyone with a disability to feel on the same page. And we've also been working with, hold on one second, I'm so sorry, it started to freeze. Yeah, CAA, which is the Creative Artists Agency or Association, yes. And so we've got events that we bring different interns in to talk about the best practices in order to develop stories with deaf people and the access and accessibility for deaf actors and the involvement of that, and how to stop having hearing actors play deaf roles, because that is incredibly important regarding access And so we are happy to provide access to the hearing interns, because someday those hearing interns might learn how to provide access for the deaf community. And it's an interchange. That's exactly what it is. And so we have to educate, so then more people can become educated, and those businesses and interns can work for us. And then the possibilities for diversity and everything are endless.
Yeah.
And the time is right. You know, we've been struggling for a very long time, and things are becoming more and more open. And that's because we've been pushing, and we have panel after panel after panel to bring people together and make them more aware of what needs to happen in order to have the best kind of human interaction and to grow creatively together and not separately.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And Ryan said, I'm sorry, it froze a lot, but what was the question again, Magaly, please?
I was asking if there are advocacy groups that are working on your behalf that are part of SAG and AFTRA or WGA or the Directors Guild that are working to make sure that the circumstances that you had on your set will be a consistent circumstance on all sets, that accessibility is not something that you have to educate them on, but that they're prepared to provide you with.
Right. And so do you mean how hearing and deaf people can work together while on a film, and like writing and producerial, or, and CJ's clarifying, saying, well, like advocacy, you know, is there a group that works to provide these groups? Like does WGA provide good support? That's what we're talking about. And Ryan said also, it's really slow connection right here. So I'm sorry, but this is a good example, right? Ryan said about CJ, he just reiterated everything that he said. And so, you know, it used to be back in the day really, really rough. And now it has gotten a lot better. And it has to do with awareness, and not just hearing and deaf awareness, but in general regarding disability. You know, if you think about a project, a deaf person in a project, then you have to think about all of the things that are going to be involved in that. And you should not be afraid to ask questions, because we are all, deaf people aren't going to bite, you know. We appreciate if you ask us first. And then if we are satisfied, then you can move ahead with the project, you know. And CJ said, I would like to add something regarding WGA, for example. There are different agencies that have good awareness, you know, regarding disability and access. And you can see on television, you know, regarding writing, sometimes they'll write the deaf community in as like a victim, or, you know, and we want to advocate for a change regarding the perspective of deaf people, which has to change in the thinking about how deaf people are. And as a hearing person, I could be a cowboy, I could be a lover, I could be all these different things. And that I want to see start to happen. Like WGA is starting to do things like that, and letting deaf people be not just victims, you know. And there's also boundaries to be able to get into unions and things like that. There's a lot of communication issues. And so when we enter into we have to talk about education first. And the bottom line is getting deaf people who are talented sorry, it's freezing a little bit. So, I know this is one of those things we're like, oh shit, you know, it freezes. So even though you guys can hear the interpreter, Ryan has to make sure that he sees everything that CJ says. Right. And so being on a panel discussion with different organizations, for example, that are all working together, that's really important. And I'm sorry that I froze sometimes.
That's okay. I froze for a good chunk of time, and I was happy everybody else was going forward. So I'm going to take a moment. If there are any questions in the audience, would you like, do you see any questions, Desmond, that you want to share with that no one is asking?
No questions so far, but one just popped
there
up.
we go.
Let's
All
take
right.
a look. We have a question from Glenn.
Okay.
As a producer / director, I'm curious to know what wording Ryan and CJ would see in a breakdown for an audition that would make them know, oh, I can show up for this and apply as an actor, not just because it's a deaf role, but because I'm an actor who wants to play this role.
Great question.
We're just clarifying that question. So Ryan says that, so you mean from the perspective of a person who's, sorry, I'm a little confused. You mean captioning of the role? Can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, absolutely. The question is, as a producer or director, I'm curious to know about what wording Ryan and CJ would see in a breakdown for an audition. So what wording would make you know that this role could be for you?
Mm.
Got it. Sure, Ryan's gonna say, I hope I understand your question clearly. So it just depends on the story. For example, if it's a deaf role, it depends on where they're raised. The narrative, is it a hearing family or a deaf family that they're coming from? Because sometimes all deaf people, that doesn't mean that all deaf people are the same. We are all very different, very distinct. So for example, CJ speaks very well, better than me, and I have iffy speech with my voice, but it depends on where you grew up and in what area you are in. So looking at the script, sometimes people think like, oh, a deaf role is just standard. But for example, like the deaf person can be raised in a deaf school or by a deaf school in a way. And on the show, they can speak really smoothly. And like, there's a hearing way to say certain things. And so me as a person, I'm like, oh, that's not a real authentically deaf experience. That casting is a little different. It makes you wonder where they're from. They are identifying as a hearing person, playing a deaf role. And so we as deaf people know that and can recognize those things, that person is not necessarily culturally deaf. But I hope I'm understanding your question correctly. I'm sorry. It's like I said, the internet is so slow and choppy, so I have to be able to see everything. Technical issues, and I do really need to, really, that question, we're talking about like a deaf role in the script, right? Like if there's a deaf character, is that what you mean?
My interpretation of this question is, the way that I'm reading it is, and maybe Glenn, if you want to submit a clarifying kind of statement to that, is if you want to show up for a role and it doesn't have to necessarily be a deaf role, how do you know it could be a deaf role? What language would you use in a posting?
Okay, I think I understand better. All right, so it's a really good question. It's much clearer now. I get it. So for example, I mean, I auditioned a lot this month. I did. And there are a lot of roles that had nothing to do with being a deaf person, being in a deaf role. And I would sign and speak. And sometimes I would ask, do you want me just to sign, or do you want me to speak by itself? Like, what do you want? And that is not like what it was before. The role would be listed as white, blue-eyed, blonde, and like it would be very pigeonholed. And I would understand like, well, I'm not going to be able to fit that role. But now it talks about any multi-ethnic diverse person may apply for this audition. And which is amazing, because then I can audition, and I can have the opportunity to be cast. Because it used to be that I would have to speak to be able to use my voice to be able to be cast, or I would have to sign a certain way, or I have to look a certain way, what color are your eyes today, but it was so much more about your aesthetic, or if you were too thin, or you had this kind of characteristic, but that has nothing to do with the role that we are asking for. And so now we have this different kind of vision of, it's more about the character and the narrative, as Ryan was saying, and also to be able to create films it does create more diversity. So it's exciting to see what's happening with the roles that are provided now, and which means I can go audition all I want, and that's amazing. And also Ryan is saying, if you're talking about an audition, you're talking about an audition, right?
I think that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, and CJ saying, yeah, like the character that's on the page,
Yeah.
you know, do you have to look exactly and be exactly that character, or is it more open? Can anyone apply? You know, and Ryan is saying that exactly that everything that CJ just said, he hit the nail on the head with that one. And CJ said, I'm just really tired of seeing, you know, this particular role, like you have to fit this role, you know, your hair must be like this, and then we're just going to pick you. But right now we're in a world where diversity is key and primary, and we're bringing different people together to bring into being authenticity and to get rid of the things that are so standard and stale. And Ryan says that you can expect you do have to understand that the real life world, you know, it's not just like, you're not going to have one standard kind of person in the real life world. Like people are going to come with a certain story and be deaf and be blind, and diversity is so key. And you don't have to be perfect. You know, I think even in the people who are casting for these different roles, if they aren't so specific on the page, then who knows who might show up, who might fit the bill, who you didn't even think would look, act, or be like that, in the way that they overcast. Does that make sense? And CJ says, I love watching hero films. You know, I want to see, it would be great to have a deaf hero, you know, or a person in a wheelchair who is a hero. And I mean, myself as a deaf person, I teach, like I told you, and I was writing, and someone said, you know what I'm interested in? I want to write about a role being in 100, in the show 100. Do you guys know that show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she said, really? You like that show 100? And I said, yeah, I love that show. And so I want to see a deaf role in 100. Why can't they have sign language in there? And so like we should be written into that. And I am like, wow, that is amazing, because that's now a possibility. Because we think about, there's a lot of people who we don't think about, who we don't see in the mainstream, and that we can actually identify with. And, you know, it's nice to have a deaf person who's on TV, and then someone out in a remote world will be like, oh my God, I see myself, you know, blind person, same thing. And so in the idea of like being on 100 and like on Netflix and bringing sign language to that platform is like, that's where that's why Zoom is kind of helping us open our minds, open our hearts, and become more innovative regarding working together. And Ryan says also, for example, when you look at all like the Star Wars franchise, right? Have you guys all seen Star Wars? So they've got quite a variety of who are not human, right? They're aliens. They're different bodied entities. So Rogue, there's Rogue, for example, and Rogue is blind. And I was so thrilled. I was fascinated with that character because, and Rogue was a Jedi, but it doesn't matter if you're blind because you're a Jedi. And so you can fight and you can use your other senses, and it doesn't matter that you're blind. And that was really thrilling for me. And so one day I hope that Star Wars can add a deaf character in their show, because I have a lot of deaf friends who are huge fans of Star Wars. And we have hoped to have some deaf representation there. So, and not just like on a television show, but on, you know, movies. And, you know, there's Marvel, and they recently have a deaf character who is a mutant. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
I think that this is a really great segue into our next question from Sharon. Sharon says, hello to CJ in particular, and that they love your work and have admired your work
Hi.
ever since they saw you in A Different World back in the early 90s.
Oh my gosh, that's going back, Sharon.
You've also been in the business so long. So are there any specific roles that you personally would like to play that you haven't played yet, even if they haven't been written? And I want to pose this question to both CJ and Ryan, because I'm really interested in what both of y'all have to say on this.
How about, let's see, who's gonna start? CJ will start. Well, I would like to play many, many, many things. But my dream as an actor, I would like to be able to play, well, a variety of different roles, you know, a lead, a co-star, animation, to animate sign language and to make it like, you know, animated. I don't think that there's one pinnacle of something that I'm working toward. And I work as an actor. I'm involved in many different roles, and it's more fun. It's a bigger challenge. I grow better that way, and I love to co-star with. I would love to co-star with Denzel Washington, or you know, or Michael Jordan, or you know, any of the famous stars. I would love to meet them and work together, or another deaf co-star, and we could be on a TV show together, some crime show, a comedy show. You know, I've got a lot in my mind that I would love to do, except the Bernie Mac show. And I would love to do that show, but oh, okay, all right. Oh, it's like an exceptional thing that I want. Something special would be the Bernie Mac show. I would really love to be on the Bernie Mac show. And Ryan says, Bernie Mac? What's Bernie? Who's Bernie Mac? Bernie Mac. You know who that is, right? Oh yeah, Ryan's like, yes, I know who that is.
And Ryan?
And that's to me, right? You're gonna ask me, Ryan is saying you want me to answer too. Okay. Well, I mean, I've been acting for almost 10 years, just so you know. So, and it's been the same kinds of things. And it's all things that have focused on the ears and getting the ears to fit into a hearing world. And I mean, I am not satisfied. I definitely want something different. I want to act in a comedy or a physical fighting combat situation, or what CJ just said, you know, a variety. That's where I thrive. And when you think about the different lifestyles that exist, I think as an actor, you really need to be able to try on different lifestyles. And is there a particular goal? No, my goal is to learn variety. And that's my opportunity. And to have the opportunity to play with that variety and play with different worlds, that's what I want to do. And yeah, that would be my goal if I were to have one.
Thank you so much.
Do we have any more questions, or
we're
about to wrap up?
Sorry, we have one more question.
Okay.
If y'all are up for it. We are almost at time, so I just want to be mindful of that. But if everyone's up for one more question, I certainly am. So this one comes from Yandel, and they say, CODA is a beautiful film. I congratulate everyone that was part of creating this beautiful piece of art. It made me pay more attention to what the characters were physically doing. I watched it a second time without sound to try to experience this further. I recommend everyone give it a try. Questions for either CJ or Ryan. Have they received acting training? If yes, what were some of the challenges that they had to overcome in their journey? And what do you wish was different in the education side of art, of acting?
Sorry, Ryan says there was a lot of freezing in that question, in the portrayal of that question. So Ajamu is just repeating for clarification, and CJ will answer first. So I can certainly share my experience through National Theater of the Deaf. that's where I got my start. I was there for 2 years, and I became a member, a touring member, and toured for 3 years. And then I moved to California. But the most training that I got was literally the hands-on experience at NTID, National Technical Institute of the Deaf in Rochester, New York, where we had a show, like a club, a performance club, and then that grew to a professional theater in Maryland. But in any case, there was a lot of growth that happened from there, and we had an awesome director, and they were deaf, and he was deaf, and he taught me so much, and I grew up acting. There was a deaf school that I went to, and there was a lot of writing that I got to do too. But the wealth of my experience comes from all the different things that I've done. And that has been the journey that has led me to where I am today. And I love learning new things, and I love working with people who make me grow, and I never stop learning. And that's what keeps me going. And Ryan said, I'm so sorry. The technology is still so slow. And so even some of your signs are kind of like blurred, you know? Hey, blame technology, Ryan says. So and same thing, let Zoom know, you know? So can you just repeat that question a little, just try and slow it down, because remember, I have a little bit of a tail. So and CJ is explaining, and CJ himself is freezing too. So can someone explain again, please? Okay, so my acting training for CODA, or for just in general, like the whole time that I've been acting for my whole life? Okay, all right, I got it. Well, it's funny, really, because I've never taken an acting class. And it just happened that I have a natural gift for expression, you know, facial expression. I grew up, I didn't sign a lot. My mom, right. So my mom, I looked up to my mom a lot because of her facial expressions and how she communicated with other people. And those expressions made it into me. And so when other people would talk to me, I would use my face and body language to talk with them. And it was so interesting to see if they understood me or not. But my facial expressions and my body language and my gestures have been highly used. And then in high school, there was a director, as you heard, Dummy Hoy, the director of Dummy Hoy asked me to be in a play. And at first I was like, my deaf friends in high school, they knew that I should be an actor. They said that I was great at, acting and expressions, and like trying on different expressions. And so I thought, well, why not? And in the beginning, I was called to the set, and I read the script, and I was overwhelmed. Absolutely, there was so much going on, but the director could see, my natural abilities, and worked with me, and realized that it was Deanne Bray came to me, and she knew that I was overwhelmed, and I've gained a wealth of experience since. And I had to understand the process too of communication, because before I was the only deaf person and then I would have my interpreter from San Diego at that time, and we worked together. But I think that she might have had some experience, or like a little bit of experience on set, either none or a little bit, but the producer and the writer, and like, did they know how to communicate with me as a deaf actor? I was really deaf. I was very slow. So we had to take our time, but luckily we had Deanne Bray show up, and she's a deaf person, and she helped describe and solve the problems that were happening, and really got the ball rolling. So it was really interesting to know what it was like to be an actor on set, and understand, you know, and to understand that like I had a natural knack for expressions and performance, and that really did come from my mom. But I've seen a few deaf people who have amazing expressions on their face, but it's hard for them to express other things. And so my favorite is Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, the comedian. He's always helped me with my facial expressions because I've always kind of emulated him. And he's been very deaf friendly, if you will, with his facial expressions. And I mean, I know what he's feeling. He doesn't have to say words. And he's got so many expressions. So did CJ have something to say? CJ said, yeah, I wanted to add, because you can see Ryan's experience from like a raw perspective. You know, he didn't have acting training growing up. And I can tell you why. It's because there are many different places, no matter where you go or no matter where you are, whatever city you're in, they don't always have access for a deaf person. You know, for a deaf person to see what an actor really is and how they can become that, there's a lot of rejection, because there's not a lot of examples, and there's also not a lot of interpreters who can do this kind of work, and that can be a barrier for deaf people, and for the success of deaf people. So when it comes to training, there's a lot of things to blame for that, or a lot of things at fault. But you know, when it comes to learning on set, hands-on, it is possible, but it is important also to have the proper interpreters and the proper support and the proper, you know, foundation. And setting up acting classes for children and adults is something that, and also including signing, that's really important for deaf kids and hearing kids too, for their own success. Ryan said, I didn't take any acting classes, like I said, but whenever I went to a different film set, I would meet the actors, and then I would ask them, what are you taking? Oh, they would ask me, what am I taking for acting classes? And I would say, I've never taken them. And they say, well, how do you act? And he says, I don't know, it just happens, Ryan said. So I've met several deaf people who are very passionate and ready to achieve their dream of being an actor professionally. And I've seen some people who couldn't act at all. And it's a wonder, because that just means that there's been a limit of how they've been able to get their information and teaching, you know? So when it comes to both hearing and deaf people, it depends on if you have a coach, this is for everyone, you know? When you read a script line by line, what are you supposed to be giving? You can just say, oh, I could just like give expressions willy-nilly, if you will, but that's not it. I mean, there's so much work and folding of the material. And it also depends on the social interactions that you have on set, you know, and that gives the deaf community a chance to be active and participate in this industry. When we learn what it is that we are supposed to be doing with a script or on set. So I'm not the only one, and there's a few other deaf people who some don't understand some things that really need to be very clearly explained. And it depends on your capacity too, where you can find understanding, and from where they were raised, and from which family they come, and from which area geographically.
Thank you so much, CJ and Ryan. I think you've given us all a great challenge. All acting studios, all acting schools have just been given a challenge. Meet it. You know, there's a whole bunch of talent waiting for you to work with if you allow yourself to do the work. And Edith Meeks just shared a copy that message with us. Edith Meeks is the artistic director of HB Studios. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. CJ Jones, Ryan Lane, Yaara Kedem, Desmond Holliday, thanks for being my co-moderator. Brandon Kazan Maddox, Ajumo Brown, thank you so much for being here for us to make this event possible and accessible. Your service has been amazing. And thank you all for being here with us. take this
Thank you.
message.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Have a great night.
All right, bye-bye, everyone. Thank you. Thanks.